Welcome. I'm so happy you're joining me today with this new webinar that I'm putting together to assist and provide information about the wonderful offering that we had for the Magdalene Easter service. A lot of people had a profound experience with this ritual walk that we do, where they walk 6 stations, but the backstory of how they were created and what was the purpose of those stations, I haven't really shared in depth. So I thought I would take the time to sort of go through them. And because the video is kind of long, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to talk about the mystery that gave me the vision to do this, and then I will actually go through the 6 stations in the part 2 of this webinar series. So let's begin with, let's see, I am trying to, there we go. So the idea is to tell the story of Easter through Mary Magdalene's eyes. And it's basically a 6-station ritual walk. And this came about from a vision that I had. I was ordained on 10-10-10, and when I became ordained, I was ordained by Elizabeth Kelly of the Holy Order of Mary Magdalenes, and also by Lady Olivier, who is 94 years old and flew all the way from London by herself at age 94 to ordain about 35 of us. And she was an extraordinary, powerful woman, a priestess in her own right for years, had a temple in London, and delivers quite a bit of Shaktipa, or that spiritual juice or energy, when she ordains people. So this is right after I received the Shaktipa, and I just went into a state of bliss. And I was so happy, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Is my inner kid finally happy? And she's like wanting to, because we're all dressed up like goddesses and we're in this beautiful temple. And what ended up happening was I went back to my room, and I opened the Course in Miracles, and my eye caught this sentence, and it said, all separation vanishes as holiness is shared. For holiness is power, and by sharing it, it gains in strength. And I was completely blown away by this sentence, and I realized that it was describing perfectly the wonderful and amazing experience that I was having. For I had never really felt holy power, and when I was sharing it with these 35 other women, what was happening was it was expanding, and it was so joyous and so beautiful and so glorious. I just loved it. I was so happy, and it was so much bliss. And I knew that this was the purpose of my work as I moved forward, was that I was to create opportunities for people to experience their holy power. I mean, there's a funny story about this, because I'm an older woman and I don't have one of these gorgeous, beautiful goddess bodies like some of the women do. And so I prayed about that and asked, how come you're giving visions to me? Because I did start getting visions, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And this power is coming through me to share, because people would resonate with it, and they would see it, and they would feel. I'm sorry, I don't know quite how to get this glare out of my glasses. Anyway, so what ended up happening was I heard a thought in a meditation, and it said that people need to understand, no matter what you look like, people need to understand the power comes through everyone. And so because I said yes, even in spite of my body, in spite of my age, in spite of everything, I said yes. And because I was saying yes, people were having a demonstration and seeing that the power does come through everyone. So it was really wonderful. So, but 2 weeks later, I had my first vision. And what I learned was that I was basically instructed that I was to create a ceremony to honor Mother Mary for her consciousness to conceive light and birth an avatar. And right about that time, Dr. Margaret Riglioso had just published her book, which was her dissertation on the virgin birth mysteries. And, you know, in the world of consciousness and metaphysics, this light, the seed of light into the consciousness, this inspired, holy, pure light of wholeness, entering into the mind, and the mind is becoming one, that you're literally conceiving light to birth a God. And so she was able to achieve such high states of consciousness that she was successful in doing that. So a month later, there I am, standing before 100 people, leading this ritual, putting everything together for this ritual as if I had always been doing this and I knew exactly what to do, and I'd never done anything like this before. But and there's Marguerite in the center with the dark blue coat on, and Elizabeth Kelly is next to her on her left, and all the wonderful priestesses who were assisting me and helping me with this glorious event, of which I attribute Donnie Riglimoto, my holy man, who really assisted me in being able to launch the work that I'm doing today. So, as a good goddess gathering, there's always an offering at the altar. And so I was thinking of what should we offer? And I got the vision to offer daffodil bulbs. And I thought, well, this is fun, because this was in the winter, in December, that we were doing this event. And so I thought, okay, we'll plant the bulbs. And then I was like trying to figure out, well, when do the bulbs bloom, you know? And I looked everywhere. I could not figure it out. It depends on the soil and the water and the light and when you exactly planted it. And so it was like crazy trying to figure out how and where would the daffodil bloom. So when I was going to a ritual about 6 weeks later, that I received a call to come and join and participate, because I had always wanted the bulbs to bloom when we did a ritual, and I had to let all that go. And as I'm bolting out the door, I looked to my left, and there are the bulbs in full bloom, and they hadn't been the day before. And as I arrived at the next ritual, here were my same friends that I had just done this other ritual with, gathering in the Golden Buddha temple to do a ritual about the recovery of our lost voice, which is very apropos to Mary Magdalene, because as she was painted into the Last Supper table, which is one of the stations in the 6-station ritual, you can see that Peter has his hand over her throat. So her voice was literally cut off, and she wasn't allowed to speak or bring forth the truth that she knows. So the next vision that I had came in pieces. You know, it was the 6 altars, and I started to have awareness of what those altars would be. It wasn't until I went to Cynthia Borstein's The Meaning of Magdalene workshop retreat at the Sisters of Mercy's center in, I think it's in San Mateo, that I realized that all the stations were. And I had a very profound healing at that retreat with water that someone had brought from Mother Mary's home. So we have been, and this is part of a series of webinars that I'm doing, a 6 series on the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And the Gospel of Mary Magdalene was a tremendous part of informing, you know, this whole thing about how she became enlightened and that's where I really was starting to realize that by walking in her footsteps, by recreating the living demonstration that she did, that we would get an idea of how to do our own awakening. And so the concepts that come forward in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is that she had basically had a vision. And visions are different than seeing with your body's eyes. So it's creating reality from the core and the center of your truth. And so she really listened and understood to what Jesus was teaching and what he was trying to explain to the disciples they can't do. Because when you look with your body's eyes out at the world, you're only going to see judgment and evaluation because your eyes pick up the impulses of light, go to the back of the brain, and they're immediately your brain is rushing around trying to figure out, am I safe here? Is this good here? Do I want to get out of here, or should I flee, or what is the deal on this? So anyway, and so her gospel outlined the steps that she took to become fully awakened. And this part of becoming a fully awakened human being is what they call the Anthropos State. That is a fully integrated, where you're integrating completely the masculine, the feminine in your heart, and you become fully accessible to the truth of the all, because there is no separate parts or separate self. It's all integrated as one. And she knew by the end of this process that she was one with God. But it wasn't an intellectual knowing, it was a knowing of the heart. And so she actually cultivated the eyes to see and the ears to hear, which is what is stated throughout the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Do you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear? So she basically is the living demonstration of an enlightened, empowered, whole and complete, wholehearted woman, and a very powerful one. And that's why this 6-station ritual is so important and so powerful and so amazing. So here is a beautiful painting that has Susanna and Joanna, the two people that Mary was, according to the Urantia book, she was the head of a 300 odd number women's corps council, and she had her disciples along with the men, and she was the head of hers. And of course, she was actually the apostle to the apostle, which puts her in the lead above all else. But what we have in reality today is we have her stripped of her identity, her garments, in this beautiful painting by Botticelli. She's abandoned outside the gates, walled out of the church, and there she remains to this day. You know, I often do a feast day celebration, and I was trying to find a place because it was a full moon night. And there's a Baptist church that is just beautiful, and it has the best place to see the full moon. And I thought, oh, this is great. And I knew they rented out the church to different people in the community for things. So I contacted them and to check in about renting it out. She goes, well, what is this for? And I said, well, we're doing a celebration to Mary Magdalene. And the woman says, oh my God, she's, oh, sorry, I'm getting away ahead of me. So anyway, the story that I was telling about the Baptist church, they said, the woman says to me, oh no, she goes, oh no. She said, well, Jesus loved Mary Magdalene. We know he loved Mary Magdalene, but no, you cannot have a feast day celebration to Mary Magdalene here at our church. And I thought to myself, so let me get this right. You believe that the heavens apart and Jesus will return to save people in his physical form. He will come back down and he will get those who are quote unquote saved and return you to heaven. And you're going to go running up to him and you're going to go, Jesus, you're going to be so proud of me because I kept Mary Magdalene out of the church. I don't think so. I don't think that's what he was trying to. It was so clear, so evident that he felt very strongly about her and that he was trying so hard to show that she was equal with him. She was one with him. That's why he, was so, but even, I talked to a woman who is an Episcopalian priest here in Marin County, and she's been with the church as a minister for 13 years. So I said to her, well, you must be really successful, and must be such open-minded people in your hierarchy that have allowed you to be a head minister of your church for so many years. And she goes, oh, no, she said, they have been so hard on us. And I have had to form a support group with other women because we have been dealing with so much abuse from these bishops that we have to give support to each other to be able to manage this male patriarchal way. So we are not anywhere near close. Even Unity in Marin told me that they would no longer sponsor the Mary Magdalene Moonrise service, which they had done for 6 years. And it was glorious. It was packed. People loved it. People came from all over for it. And they realized, they said they thought that it wasn't in alignment with unity. Well, unity principle is oneness, right? And so oneness is truly the ultimate truth, is that we are one. And this is what she did. She had that recognition and realization that she was one with God. And so you had the patriarchy up here, and then you had the divine feminine down here. Most women, when my mother was born, for Christ's sake, well, she didn't have the right to vote. And so women have slowly started to come up. And now we're getting on equal footing, but we're not equal yet. The hashtag Me Too movement has clearly shown it. We still don't have equal pay for women. There's so many issues that we don't have. But as we recognize and more men become less threatened and actually appreciate a fully empowered, enlightened woman, then what happens is we come together in oneness. And ultimately, then we'll have oneness. But I don't think you can just go from one to the other. When you had one up and ruling and empowered in place, knowing they were divine for so long, and the other one, forget it. They few women have it, but I know so many women that do not feel this way about being empowered. So we still have a lot of work to do. And that's why I feel pretty strongly about this whole thing. Even at Grace Cathedral, which is a beautiful church, they have this beautiful painting of Mary Magdalene holding the white egg. But the white egg is only in the Protestant churches, because the red egg is the egg that supposedly the story is that it turned from white to red when she was trying to explain to the apostles that he had risen. And she picked up an egg in a basket and held it in her hand, and she said, he has risen, and the egg turned red, proving that he was risen, that he had risen. And she was the one that was informing them of his risen state. So anyway, so the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, basically, I love the way it ends. Levi's saying, we'll go forth and spread, but I was thinking spread the Bible, right? No, it's go forth and spread the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm replying to this call because when I heard about that there was this Gospel of Mary Magdalene, I was like totally shocked. Just like, how come there's this gospel? And then I discovered that when we walk in her footsteps, we are restoring the truth of who we are. And this empowers us because she had a profound experience doing what she did. And she took certain steps to make her awakening happen that she felt guided to do. And when we follow in her footsteps and we look at what did she do, suddenly the experience of following her footsteps and doing what she did, we also end up as well being changed. And so here is where we begin with the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And we begin with the Easter journey. And the first thing that I do when we started is I welcome everybody. But this is a welcoming of not just, welcome, I'm so glad you're here. Yes, that too. But it's really welcome your higher self. Welcome and rise and claim your higher self. So the whole thing begins with a profound night of blessings, a profound experience where people get to see and know that they are divine. You are seen for your divine self, and you are known about the truth of who you are, is witnessed to you as you go one by one through the stations. And there's deep, life-affirming blessings that are offered to everyone by women who are practicing priestesses and who have really understood that this is their work and their calling to do. And here's one of my favorite pictures. This young man is just coming out of the last station, or entering the last station, the gates of heaven. And he has gone through 6 stations. And the step-by-step process of going through all the stations has really gotten him in touch with his own divine self. And so he is a holy man. He is just in his heart. He is moved and touched beyond measure, because when you walk in her footsteps, she leads you to your divine self. And believe me, that is the best place to be. That is the most fun place to be. It is the most joyous place to be. It is just, people get ecstatic and happy and blissful, and it's just like there's so much fun going on. And a lot of the women too, when they realize what we have been missing, because, I was born and raised in a Protestant church, and it was completely dry and devoid of all the divine feminine. I don't think I ever heard that word uttered once. I mean, only at Easter or at Christmas did I ever hear, the word Mary or Magdalene. But in this ceremony, it's packed with people. Everybody's going through the experience. We're all sharing this. And remember, all separation vanishes when we share that which is holy, for holiness is power. And as we share it, it gains in strength. So by the time this beautiful woman, she is so moved to tears, and she's returning to her own divine nature. And she comes in, and she is really impacted in such a profound way, because she's being held in the arms of women who hold you as divine and know you as divine. And they claim that for you, and they hold that space for you as you allow yourself to go into that space. It's like Marianne Williamson's beautiful famous line that Nelson Mandela used in his inaugural speech, that that when we allow our light to shine, it gives others permission for their light to shine. So these people have been willing to step up to the plate and hold that. And then there were the women that really broke my heart open. I'm forever grateful and indebted to Elizabeth Kelly, who's of the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene. This is an order out of the south of France, and it's an unbroken lineage of women who have come down through the ages. And these women have ordained, one woman a year gets ordained in the order. It is a very powerful ordination during the ordination. And then when you go, Elizabeth Kelly had actually an apparition of Mary Magdalene appear to her and said, I will be rising in the late 90s, and I would like you to help me agent your message. And she got led on this full-on adventure, and she's been ordaining women in the Lyceum of Sophia, which is the feminine face of God, which is what I was ordained in. And then Kathleen McGowan, who also had an apparition of Mary Magdalene appear to her that saved the life of her baby with the information that she got. She also has touched and opened my my life to it. So I'm deeply grateful to these women who have come before me and done this. The other thing that's really important to understand and know about is A Course in Miracles, because in the manual for teachers, the Course says that there are those who have reached God directly, retaining no trace of worldly limits, remembering their own identity perfectly. So this is what the Gospel of Mary Magdalene tells us, is that she had a vision and she reached God directly, and she knew the truth about herself. And so the Course in Miracles says that when people have this experience while they're here on the planet, these people might be called teachers of teachers, because although they are no longer visible, their image can yet be called upon. And they will appear when and where it is helpful for them to do so. So Elizabeth and Kathleen have both had opportunities to have a vision of Magdalene appear to them when it is helpful to do so. Some of us have visions that are of different nature and understandings that we grow into. The other person who influenced the Magdalene Easter ritual is Cynthia Bourgeot, who is the woman who wrote the book. She's a Presbyterian, I believe, priest. So it drives me crazy because she won't say that she's a priestess. Because women who step into ordination power in the Catholic or the Protestant sect claim the masculine side rather than claiming their feminine side. So anyway, she wrote this wonderful book called The Meaning of Magdalene, and there's many, many nuggets of information there from her very deep and profound research that she did around Mary Magdalene. So in the next ritual, this is what we will do. We will be going through the walk, the ritual walk, and I will be telling you about each station and how each station developed and what is the function and purpose, what was Magdalene's teaching there, what did she, what did she do, what was her purpose, and all of that. And so we're going to take a little break, and then we'll be back for part 2. Great. Thank you. Blessings. Blessings. Thank you.